Why are so many art critics giving this painting such a slobby description and describing it as something that it's not? Well, I think I have the answer and I will tell you right away. The critics don't have an art education, maybe a theoretical one, but they haven't practiced art themselves in most cases. But I have, and I will tell you what this painting actually contains of right now. Hi everyone and welcome. This is Leave Art and today we are going to talk about the much debated portrait of King Charles III. The portrait was unveiled a couple of weeks ago and have had no shortage of opinions, both from professionals in the art field as well as people in general. Let's take a look at what was said on Instagram under the post of the portrait on the royal family's Instagram account, all according to CNN. Quote, "With the uniform and that color, it looks like the visual representation of the massacre caused by colonizers." End quote. And another one said, "I would have loved this if this was any other color than red. He actually captured the essence of him in the face, but the harshness of the red doesn't match the softness of his expression." Another post read, quote, "Looks like he's going straight to hell." End quote. The artist behind the painting is Jonathan Yeo, and he had 4 sittings with the king and also worked from drawings and photographs according to the palace, and that can also be seen in studio visit that media did after the unveiling of the painting. And it's obvious if you do a bit of the research that he relied heavily on photographs quite a lot during the making of it. So what you can notice at first glance, and if you see its natural surroundings, it is the size. It's really huge, it's much bigger than the real life size of the model, so it's certainly impressive in that way. And the frame is a bit different too. It's a dark, more discreet frame that goes really well with the colors in the painting, so it doesn't have the same style as many other royalty portraits with this extravagant golden frames that is common. So this is a bit modern touch as well. So speaking of the colors, let's ignore the background just for now and discuss the subject matter himself. This is the king standing in the uniform of Welsh Guards. It's a bright red, almost Christmas red uniform that he often wears in many official appearances. And then we have his face. This is certainly a work of an extremely skilled portrait painter. The face is so beautifully interpreted and painted with the details, with the warmth in his gaze. The natural texture and wrinkles of his face makes it look really alive, and also you can see a bit of a reflection on his forehead from the light. It's really a beautiful portrait of a man that is giving the impression of knowing his self-worth, but certainly at the same time looks at you with warmth. This is a person that you would probably be comfortable with if you were in the same room. I am not stating that King Charles is that, I don't know him, but I'm just saying what I can interpret from this beautiful portrait when it comes to how Jonathan Yeo painted his face. And then we have another important issue, and that is his torso and the rest of the body. It is interesting to see some photographs that the artist has used, because it's quite obvious that the artist has transferred the photograph directly to the canvas. And when this happens in a photograph, something that looks really natural can look unnatural on a painting because of perspective, proportions, how texture is falling and so on. Ironically, to make it look natural, you have to do some sort of an interpretation of the model or the photograph to make it look realistic, if that makes sense. And you can always argue that it doesn't have to look realistic because it's a painting, but this painting implies with the gestalt of him and the face and he's standing up in front of the person he's looking at, that this should be a realistic interpretation when it comes to bodily proportions and such. It's not a surreal painting, it's not expressionism, cubism where you have limbs all over. It's supposed to be a realistic painting of a man in a uniform. And the artist working like this has made actually that his arms look too short and they are uneven. The elbow is further down on the right side than the left side, and if the artist would have taken a step back and not just transferred what he saw on the photograph to the canvas, he probably would have painted it different and made the arms of this uniform a bit bigger and push it back in the image a bit. So it's kind of too flat. It doesn't make the illusion of the elbow going back enough so that the perspective works, and this makes his arm smaller than it actually reasonably is. And then we have the hands. The artist has also here been true to the image in that sense that Prince Charles actually has really small hands. It looks a bit funny here though. Prince Charles also has really swollen hands, and the artist has kindly enough made this a little less obvious in the painting, so that is a good thing. But his fingers are really weirdly stiff. In the future you will not know that Prince Charles had swollen hands, so what you will see is something that you will probably interpret to that the artist was not skilled enough to paint proper hands. Painting hands is one of the hardest things you could do, by the way. It's much harder than painting a face. So this has rarely been talked about, and mostly people have been obsessed with the color and what the color has meant. And also, art critics, like I said, they don't actually see this because they haven't practiced art themselves, and certainly not sketching live models. So as long as it's, takes a professional eye to see it and it's not extremely obvious, it's simply so that it's not seen. Let's talk a bit about the very discussed color. It has been criticized for being blood red and associated with colonialism and whatnot. And if you look at red a little bit, and what it often symbolizes is authority and power, and of course in art history and associated with blood and death and so on. Everything in this painting is embedded in this color except the hands and the face. But the thing is, this is not red, certainly not blood red. This is a color of fuchsia, bright, neon, intense pink, and you can even see a glimpse of orange. And then there's some darker brown parts in the painting that the artist has glazed over with this neon pink, fuchsia, and sometimes slightly orange color that you can see revealed if you just look closely enough and long enough at the painting. And I think the style he has painted these two is really interesting. I think it's something that associates to stock photos that are supposed to be paintings then, or ready-made art you buy at IKEA or at Amazon. It's often in this glazed layer on layer kind of controlled expressive way of painting, and often cute inviting colors like pink, blue, orange and earthy tones, exactly what you can see in the painting. So this very much reminds me of the sort of ready-made art you can see nowadays on social media. If you go to Photoshop, take a photograph and use one of the filters where you can make art, you will get a result like this in a couple of clicks. So I look at this as a comment on the contemporary we are living in. But at the same time, it is chaos. You can't really see clearly, even at the present, and much less on the future. And then that also adds to this is the butterfly that is just above the right shoulder of King Charles. And the butterfly was something that the king himself wanted to be there. He wanted something to associate with nature, so he asked for this butterfly, and the king is working a lot in different projects to preserve nature and natural habitats. The butterfly is also seen in many cultures as a symbol of transformation and change, and of course Prince Charles becoming King Charles is a big transformation. There's a huge transformation going on in our world right now, so many ways, and the contemporary times with technology is transformation to transformation. Everything is moving so fast and changing all the time. But what I think is so interesting with the butterfly and how Jonathan Yeo painted it, this is exactly what you could see if you go to IKEA to buy some art. You see this expressive layer and layer glazed background, and then sort of detailed drawings or almost prints on top of it. You can say you have sort of three technical elements here. One is the hands and the face. Two is the background and the uniform merges with the rest of the surface. And then you have this little butterfly that comes in as a third way of telling something in this painting. All of these details makes this a great painting, and despite the details I talked about, the concerns with the hands and the proportions I discussed, the whole idea and the comment that the artist is doing with this painting is, I would say, a genius one, and I really think this is a great painting. I agree it takes a couple of minutes to understand it and get used to it, but once you do, once you just, take a big deep breath, take a couple of minutes and try to interpret this painting, I think this is a rememberable portrait of a king, and I mean that in a good way. So anyhow, whatever you think of this painting, it sure has caused a turmoil, and we will remember this for sure, love it or hate it. So this was all from Lipa this time. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and please give us a like and a thumbs up if you did. It will really help us. Thank you for today, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!